Welcome to Toxicology, brought to you by Recovery Unplugged, the place where we talk about all things substance abuse, recovery, and mental health, with guests offering varying perspectives and viewpoints. Hosts Joseph Gordo and Jason Cabello share about their addiction and recovery and other serious subject matter through lighthearted yet candid conversation.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Talksicology, the latest and greatest podcast on mental health, addiction, recovery, and music and skateboarding and whatever we feel like talking about.
God.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of God today. Specifically,
I'm the wrong person for that.
Specifically a Judeo-Christian God. No, I'm just, actually though, before we get into it, I was in a meeting last night, and this guy in my group, Jim, he starts sharing. He's like, you know what? He's like, here when we talk about God, probably most of the room is thinking something Christian. But if we were in India, we'd probably be thinking Hindu. And you go a little bit over here, and now we're talking about Buddhism. He's like, it's whatever the hell you want it to be. And he's like, even within Christianity, right? Even if everyone in this room was Christians, there's a wide range of things that could mean to you.
Yeah.
So this thing's big.
Yeah.
It's big. It's big. I'm your host, Joseph Gordo. My co-host, Jason Cabello, is here with us today. This is the first two-person episode we've done in a minute.
Yeah, we've been not on, well, I guess a hiatus, sort of we've been busy.
Yeah, we've been busy.
Yeah.
And we have the wonderful Miss Patsy Bouressa.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah.
Patsy, and I'll tell you this, Patsy. I almost told you this before we started, but I was like, no, save it. You recently helped introduce me to a bunch of people, and just in my running around town in Austin, I run into people who know you, and you are universally loved.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I hear your name all the time, and we met a couple years ago briefly, and then but yeah, your name comes up all the time when I'm traveling and I tell people I live in Austin.
Yeah.
People, I was like, Patsy.
Oh, that's so
we
cool.
met once. I wouldn't say I know her, but we've been acquainted. So now
Thanks, guys.
it's official now.
Yeah. And literally every person that you introduced me to was like, if Patsy says I got to talk to you, we're talking.
They're a great group of people, so that's nice.
So Patsy, why do people like you so much?
I have no idea. I'm sure you'll find some out there that don't, but
Patsy, you and I met, I want to say 11 years ago at this point.
I think it was 2016, 2015. When did you?
You opened in 2016.
So it was 2016 because you had just opened.
Yes. And you were at what was then Cross Creek. Is it still there?
I think it's still there, but I don't.
Yeah.
I kind of try to erase it.
And you were in this weird job where you were running the IOP, but also doing some business development.
It was weird. The whole thing was weird.
But honestly, that's where our timelines intersected, and we've stayed pretty close throughout the years. But I really don't know much about you from before I met you.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd like to start with how you ended up in mental health, right?
Cool. Yeah. So my first career was about 16 years as in human resource management in corporate America. And then my last job, we laid off everyone at the company, and I was lucky enough to get a year's severance. Yeah, so I was laid off in May, but it was the summer of 9/11. And so I was home just doing nothing because I had a year's severance.
Wow.
So watched it all unfold. And when I heard about that Flight 93 and knowing that all of those people on that plane knew they were going to die, and I was like, oh gosh, I really hope everyone on that plane was at a place where they were at least at peace with where they were in their life. And it made me kind of go introspective. And I was like, I'm not where I want to be. My undergrad was in psychology. I always had a passion for mental health issues. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to change everything. So I started researching different graduate programs. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go back into psychology. And I stumbled upon social work, which I didn't really know much about until I was doing all my research, and went to UT where I got my undergrad and talked to everybody there to kind of understand more about it. And it just felt like a perfect match because of their the whole systemic, holistic way of looking at things and not pathologizing people. And so I was like, this is my jam. And so I got my master's, and then my first job was working with mentally ill kids at a residential treatment facility. And I did that for
Up north?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did
Ooh.
that for about five years. And then I left there to create the only therapeutic reentry program in the state of Texas for adult male felons
Yeah.
out at Travis State Jail. And I did that for, now I'm going to lose track of years, but several years. And then I left there, was at Cross Creek briefly. And then a board member of a local nonprofit reached out to me because I worked with him. He was a psychiatrist. And he was like, hey, we're looking for a new person at this nonprofit. You want to come over? And I was like, hell yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got connected to the whole music industry.
Yeah. And have you always been in Austin?
I was born in Nebraska because I'm an Air Force brat.
Really?
Yeah.
I think you might be the only person I know who was born in Nebraska.
Omaha, Nebraska. I was there for a whole 6 weeks of my life.
How'd you like it?
It was fantastic. It was really cold. And then we moved briefly, I guess, to Riverside, California. And then my dad retired when we were in San Antonio, and we moved to El Paso when I was in 3rd grade. Yeah. So I grew up there and then came here for school.
So if you moved to El Paso when you were in 3rd grade.
Mm-hmm. It was 100 years ago. Don't ask for the year.
No, I'm saying, I was going to say, like, so technically you're like raza.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. My mom's first generation Mexican American. My grandparents came here from, my granny was from Chihuahua and my grandfather was from Juarez.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe we never talked about that all these years. Yeah.
Well, because you're like me then, because like people meet me and they're like, this dude's like the whitest dude I've ever seen.
But if you see me next to my brother and my sister, they take after my dad. And then I very much look like a Mexicana at that point because they're so white.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, and like if you look at a picture of me with all my siblings, which I don't think one actually exists because there's 7 of us.
Yeah.
I am the whitest looking
That's
one.
so funny.
I clearly am too with the Mexican side of my family. So it's all of us.
Look at all of us. Share that in common. I love it.
So you mentioned how like you joined this nonprofit and that's how you got involved with the music industry. But like knowing you, I just know that music was important to you way before that.
Always. Yeah. Big part. I was a singer my whole life through school. So, and I still love to sing. And, like anybody else, we've seen each other a million times at concerts.
Oh, yeah.
So live music is just my jam. I love festivals. So it was a really natural fit, but not one I would have ever really thought of as having some sort of niche need until I got in it. And then I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
What kind of music did you grow up on?
Well, let's see. Lots of Motown. My dad was full-on country boy from Virginia, so lots of old school country. And then I had a cousin who was, I don't know how old Steven is. He's probably 15, 20 years older than me. So lots of Grand Funk Railroad and Bad Company and you name it. Like everything from country to Motown and all in between. Mm-hmm.
I love all that stuff. That's all great. But so I guess, so you talk about you joined this nonprofit and then you realize like, hey, like this niche need isn't really so much of a niche need, right? It's all over the place.
Yeah.
And so like, what do you, having worked with adolescents, adults and everything in between, right? What do you see as unique about working with music and music industry people?
I mean, there's a lot of things. I think just any kind of gig worker comes with a lot of difficulties, right? Really insecure financial situations, no security in your job, lots of traveling and moving around and all of that, having to have multiple jobs. So just those stressors of not having a solid employment base, but a passion for it. So that's the other thing. It's almost like an addiction itself to get in it, and then you just can't get out of it because you love it so much. So there's lots of that. There's tons of depression and anxiety throughout the entire industry. Sadly, a lot of trauma. There's, with traveling and being in strange places in the middle of the night can come with a lot of stuff that happens.
Yeah, you're loading out of a bar downtown at 3 a.m.
Yeah, and then bad things happen. There's lots of wear and tear on family relationships and your partner and your children. So just all of those stressors that come with a career that you're passionate about and you really want to be in and don't know enough about those stressors when you enter it. And then you're in it and you're like, oh God, I'm ill prepared to deal with this.
Well, I think a lot of people when they get in it, right, they're younger, right? 18, 19, early 20s to where like life is pretty simple. Like I think about like when I got sober. Right. When I got sober at 24, like all I needed to do was stop sticking needles in my arm.
Yeah.
And then the older I got, there's this 12-step saying. I don't know if they do it in NA, but like that I've got problems in areas where I didn't used to have areas.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
a
like,
really good saying.
And so that's just kind of what you make me think of, right? It's like when they first get in, it's like, yeah, like I don't need any money. I can sleep on a couch. I just want to make music or perform or be a part of this. And
you're getting paid with, tips and however much beer you can drink. And that's a pretty fun lifestyle for an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Right.
And then things start to change.
Yeah.
You mentioned depression, anxiety, and how it's so prevalent in the industry. And honestly, I feel like having been in this field for as long as I have, that especially since COVID, just all of a sudden, everybody's got depression and anxiety, or people that used to have like a more manageable, like a generalized anxiety or like a mild depression.
Yeah.
All of a sudden just ratcheted it up. And even with alcohol and drugs, right? People who maybe like partied a little bit, but not too bad. And then all of a sudden they're like, I can't stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was weird to watch because, we're all locked up for that first year. And for the nonprofit I worked for, we're still trying to work with clients who, for the first time, in some people's cases in years, they've been at home with their family.
Yeah.
And now they're like, maybe I don't really like my family that much. And maybe they don't really like me.
Yeah.
And we no longer know how to get along. And the sort of uncertainty of that entire situation and, being flooded with all those mixed messages politically that, it being politicized, people were just scared and they didn't know how to deal with it. And quite frankly, mental health professionals were uncertain how to deal with it because you're just being inundated with clients that you knew really well and now are experiencing radically different things. Lots of relationships busted up, lots of drug and alcohol use, lots of relapses, unfortunately. And then just that fear that those who were touring, crew members and musicians, are we ever going to be able to get back out there? And if we do get back out there, how are we going to do this safely? Like, this is probably not going to be the only virus that's going to cause something weird. So it was all of that fear. And then the other really weird thing that we saw happen post the lockdown year is suddenly adults who have never had any sort of ADD or ADHD symptoms or issues were now being diagnosed with it.
Really?
It's like rewired people's brains that anxiety we were all feeling, and you would pace around your house like, I'll watch TV, no, I'm going to be on my phone, and all of that. It really increased the amount of people who are struggling with attention issues and focus.
See, I just blamed all that on TikTok.
I mean, I think that there's that too. Yeah, the way that we all you can be watching a movie and suddenly you realize you've been scrolling on your phone, right? So that played into it, but just a huge spike in full-on diagnosing and being medicated for something they've never had before.
Because social media, right? And yes, I'm definitely a victim of. I was watching a baseball game last night, and the second an inning ended, just start scrolling until I hear the game start again.
Yeah.
That constant need for dopamine, I think is something that we've all kind of fallen into. But also, I feel like there was this trend on TikTok where people were giving mental health advice, and it almost became I figured out that I have ADHD, and then it kind of there was almost this a suggestion kind of thing where lots of people, not just with ADHD but other things, have started to self-diagnose themselves. I know a lot of people that in the last couple of years have decided that they are on the spectrum because of TikTok.
I mean, it's interesting because on the one hand, these issues, whether it's a mental health or a substance use issues, are so stigmatized still. So on the one hand, you're like, good, I'm glad people are talking about it. But then on the other, when you border into that, I'm going to self-diagnose this and now just going to proclaim this to the world, that can do some harm as well, right? So, I mean, I think obviously I'm a licensed clinician. I would prefer people go and seek help and make sure that they're getting the care that they need if they have these things, or are able to explore with a therapist why they felt that, even though no one else is diagnosing them with that, right? So I love the conversation around it, but I think we have to be careful about implanting ideas into people's brains.
Well, and I think the reality is that a lot of people turn to social media for that type of advice because they don't have insurance, or their insurance doesn't cover therapy in an adequate way.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm on all these Facebook groups for awesome mental health professionals, and it seems like every post is either needs sliding scale under $60 or cash pay not a problem.
Yep.
And there's like no in between.
Well, there isn't. And so this is like one of my biggest pet peeves, the way that the insurance industry deals with these issues. So people fall back on the ACA and wrote it into law that there had to be parity.
Yeah.
So if your plan is no deductible and a $20 office visit for your primary care physician, it has to be the same for your psychiatrist or your therapist, which sounds great.
Yeah.
But you see your therapist weekly.
Yeah.
And when you're a gig worker, you can't afford $80 a month to go to your therapist. So there is no parity. So that's one issue.
Mm-hmm.
The other is so many clinicians don't take insurance because it's a hassle.
It's a pain in the ass.
And you have to, pick diagnoses that they'll pay for. And there's all this stuff, this administrative stuff behind the scenes that really complicate matters. So the vast majority of us don't take insurance.
Yeah.
So then when you get a client who comes to you with something sort of more difficult to deal with, say like an eating disorder or a personality disorder that requires specialized skills, no one on their plan has that experience. And so when you're like, well, just, a lot of nonprofits will say, well, we'll just send you to your insurance. Well, that's great if you had something that all of us can deal with. I wouldn't take somebody with an eating disorder.
Yeah.
I don't have that skill set.
Yeah.
And so, they're getting therapy, but they're not getting proper care.
Yeah.
And so it's smoke and mirrors to say, well, you have insurance, so you can go get this covered, but it's not that simple in mental health and substance use. It's just not.
Yeah. And I will go out on a limb and go on record as saying that I personally and professionally hate insurance companies. There's one exception, right? My current insurance, Curative, phenomenal, Austin-based business, support local. They're great.
I forgot. That's really cool.
Yeah.
After this, I want to ask you some questions.
Because, I will tell you, right now, I'm in therapy twice a week. Several of my family members are in therapy, at least once a week. And nobody's a network, right? And Curative does this thing. This isn't a Curative commercial.
This is not sponsored by Curative.
But they do this thing where, if you need something that isn't within their network, you submit a form that says, hey, I want this person to be a zero card provider.
Yeah.
And what the zero card is this credit card they send you that you put that card on file. And then they, if it gets approved, they will put the $140 or whatever that person charges
amazing.
On the card.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Two things about what you just said. One, I think in talking about these issues, that's the conversation I wish people were more comfortable having to say, I'm in counseling twice a week instead of I have this issue. Both together would be, great. But I think to make it, to quote, normalize it, I hate that word, but to make it okay to say, oh, I can reach out and get help. I think that's huge. Second, I think that's amazing that any organization would even offer something like that because these services are not cheap.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
I mean, it's just not cheap.
Their whole business model, though, is they want you to go to the doctor. They want you to go get the lab work. They want you to go to the therapist so that you don't end up in the hospital getting a heart transplant or whatever other thing.
Right? It's interesting back to insurance. So there's all these levels of care in both substance use and in mental health.
Yeah.
So if you need something that's called a partial hospitalization program where you go 5 days a week and you get your medication and all of that and you're in counseling or whatever that program is about, so many insurance companies will not pay for that. They would much rather wait until you have to go inpatient, which is going to cost them like $10,000 a day or some kind of crazy stuff. Why?
Yeah.
Why do we have to wait for somebody to try to harm themselves or somebody else? Why isn't everything covered?
Yeah.
Just for that reason of Curative's business model. Let's actually take care of people before it gets to that extreme.
Well, what I've seen is people will call looking for treatment, detox, residential, whatever. And usually if they don't meet criteria for detox, but they do for residential, but they've never done any kind of treatment, their insurance will say well, we want you to go to IOP first. We want to see you fail at IOP first. And they've kind of backed off on that now. I think with the fentanyl stuff, they're seeing hey, them going to IOP and failing might mean them dying.
Yeah.
But anyway, just We could probably go
Yeah,
off.
we could do that for days.
So like
you
if I went back to get my master's, it would be in social work because this is the way I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Jason's probably like, this is not good content.
No,
Nobody cares
great.
about this stuff,
I love
guys.
Somebody does. But to circle it back to like, the music industry and stuff is, most musicians and roadies and the lighting people and the crew,
Mhm.
right, don't have insurance.
Yeah.
Because they're gig workers, right? And it's my understanding that like a lot of these, event management companies that put all this stuff on, they really only have a handful of employees that like get benefits and
Yeah.
a salary, and everything else is contract.
Yep. Yeah.
So, how do you see that impacting the industry?
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting, right? Because you do have ACA plans that are somewhat affordable depending on people's situations. But then back to what I said about parity. So now you're paying for this really as a catastrophic plan. So if something happens physically to me that's horrific, I'll have this insurance. But using it day to day to go see my therapist, I don't have that money.
Yeah.
So I'm just not going to go to the therapist because I can't afford the $20 copay or the $50 copay. So it's great to have that coverage in case something happens to you physically, but from a mental health standpoint, it's fairly useless.
Yeah.
Because back to what I said before as well, that you don't have a therapist on your plan who has the skills needed to treat what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So that's really frustrating. I mean, again, we could go on about insurance forever. I mean, it needs a whole revamping. And then you've got lots of really amazing organizations across this nation and across especially the UK that are focused on mental health and substance use issues for people in the industry. But often it's just for musicians, ignoring everyone else that is responsible for putting these things on, which is sad. But at the same time, it's all very expensive. So you kind of have to pick your battles. So, I mean, I just think it's so many layers to the problem. And that's why it's just, for me, why I got so hooked on working with this population that very much need this assistance. Through the pandemic, I met so many amazing people who initially were getting together to kind of talk about how do we support everyone while they're just locked down because we knew people were falling apart.
You know Cody? Cody Cowan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Cody.
Friend of the show.
Yeah, I love him. Met with him many times. But people all over the world that we started on, I think it was a Thursday morning in Austin, Texas, and we would have this weekly meeting to like brainstorm. And then ultimately, as it dragged on, it turned into a support group for all of us who were also falling apart. And so now I just know this network of all these amazing orgs that I can at any moment like call Joanne Croxford in the UK and say, hey, this band's over there doing X, Y, and Z. How do I get them connected to help with whatever?
Black Sabbath
yeah.
this past weekend. Yeah.
That made me cry. I was very shocked by that. I'm sorry, the segue.
Yeah.
I did not expect to cry when Ozzy came on.
Yeah.
It got me super emotional seeing the end of that. So,
Mama, I'm coming home.
oh my God.
Oh
that
my
was like, I just was
God.
a puddle and I did not expect that because you could see on his sweet little face that he knew that was it.
Yeah.
So, that was a lot.
For the viewers and listeners at home, we're recording this the week after Black Sabbath just performed their final concert ever. So like the last real live performance of Crazy Train, the last real live performance
amazing.
of Mama, I'm Coming Home. And
It was really cool.
Ozzy still got the pipes.
He sounded great. His voice was surprisingly great.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see musicians who have been doing it for 40, 50 years who can still do it. I was on tour with Kiss for their last tour.
Oh, wow.
And every single night, and these guys are in their 70s. And Paul
easy.
gets up on this ring, and all it is a rope and a ring, and gets up and
Holy
goes across
cow.
the entire stadium, and then jumps off and plays a couple of songs, and they are just like, I want to be that active now.
Yeah.
and it's just it's inspiring. I mean, it just goes to show when you think back at like when I was a kid and I thought of somebody who was 40 years old, I was not thinking of somebody that looked like you. It was like Archie Bunker or something,
Well, have you seen the things on like social media where they're like, this dude from Cheers was 30.
Yeah.
They filmed that, and we're like,
They all look so old.
Mr. Drummond from Different Strokes.
Yeah.
He was 22 when he recorded that. No, I'm just messing with
I
you.
was
No,
like,
Jesus
I almost had a heart
Christ.
attack. I was like, what are you saying?
But yeah, I mean, I'm not what I thought 40 would look like.
No, I didn't.
You know,
Going to be 51 in
I mean,
a couple. Jesus, way too soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think that I'd be like skating at 51 and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
jumping rope every day.
And that's the thing. Like all these people who, like I said earlier, you just become so addicted to this career that you do see
Yeah.
these guys like building a stage before some arena show who are in their 60s and you're
Yeah.
thinking, my God,
Yeah.
how are you still doing that crazy heavy lifting manual labor
Yeah.
work? But they love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the thing is like they've spent their life doing something they love. They haven't spent their life staring at spreadsheets and,
And nobody loves that.
hopping on Zoom meetings and saying, you're like, nothing for me.
Yeah.
But that's the opposite too. So I do a support group with a nonprofit out of Michigan for the partners of crew members who are out on tour. And last night, one of the partners has decided to retire. And so then their whole conversation is now about how do we do that? I've spent 30, 40 years with you on the road and we figured out how to make that work.
Yeah.
I don't know how to have you in the house underfoot all
Every
day
day.
long.
Yeah.
And nor does that partner. So it's that whole like, now I don't know what my purpose in life is anymore. And then your partner who loves you and is thrilled that you retired is like, wait, I didn't think about the
Yeah,
part where I
right.
really need you out of the house.
Yeah, they're used to seeing you 2 weeks every few months.
And it's joyful.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause
And then now it's like
yeah.
and that's a big thing that I've come across with people who are touring that I think is one of the things that probably isn't talked about enough. You probably hear it a lot, but when you're coming off tour, when they're coming off tour, like getting reacclimated to being back home and having whatever the structure is back home, getting used to having you back there. And especially in that decompression stage where, you're pacing around, you're used to being like, get up and go, like, where's my day sheet? What's going on? Like, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And then just having that downtime, it affects people. Like, and it affects everybody.
Yeah.
Like the kids aren't used to having you around. The wife isn't, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, have you dealt with that much? A lot of that, like working with people?
Absolutely.
And what do you find is just, to simplify it? What are some of the things that you find that you suggest to people?
I mean, a lot of what you hear for the person who is either retired, well, when they're retiring, it's just sort of a loss of purpose. And so even people who don't have like actual diagnosable depression, they start to feel depressed because they don't know what is my next chapter? Like they had this really exciting career where you're traveling all over the place, so that's a huge shift. And then for the people at home, I'm feeling guilty about being mad that you're home because I spent the last 30 years wanting you to be home, right? So everybody now has to learn how to be together as a family. When people are on the road, you hear from the people at home lots of resentment, the person who's taking care of the house and the kids and the lawn and all of that. Where are you? Why aren't you here to help with these? So it's almost like a lot of guilt and regret going around all the time because I know I signed up for this, but I didn't know what it was going to be like. And then you signed up for this. Stop bothering me. I'm doing a job. So there's all of that just natural human stuff, those resentments, the thoughts, the sadness, the loneliness, I really just wish you were here. I love you kind of things that both of them are feeling. And then they get back together for an extended period of time and they're like, why are we not blissful? I thought we would be blissful.
Yeah.
So it's all of those like unknowns and then trying to readjust. And that is where counseling can come in. Everybody can be perfectly mentally healthy.
Yeah.
But to talk that through is so helpful.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're like the headlining band, like you can afford to go on a vacation and kind of ease your way back into it. But if, you're part of the crew and you come back and all the problems are there when you get there and, you weren't here to help with this, but it's just very overwhelming.
It's all overwhelming. And it's an exciting career, but it comes with a toll, big time. I mean, it's not easy to have relationships. of any kind, even
Yeah.
just friendships or if you're a young person out on your first big tour, to maintain a relationship with your mom and dad if they're still around.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard and it takes effort. And you just don't think about that. I think it's easier now because you've got FaceTime and Zoom
Right.
and all of that. So at least you can see each other, but that's not the same.
What's one of the things that you came across, and maybe one of the most recent things that you've come across working with people on the road all the time, when you're like, oh, I've never thought about that?
Wow, that's a really good question. What haven't I feel like I've heard so many things.
Patsy's thought of everything.
I mean, no, I haven't, but it's like, I guess they're part of like being out on tour with people, and, just sort of randomly having people access time to talk to you. You so often hear about like the connectivity of the crew, especially if they've been with the same tour for an extended period of time. So when you're hearing about like infighting, poor management, which to me feels very corporate and that, so that it doesn't feel very rock and roll when you're hearing that.
Politics with it.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh yeah, okay, it's still an organization, if you will, that still has hierarchies. Decisions that are made much higher than everybody that people don't like. Where the hell did that come from? Like, why did we cancel that? Or why are you adding this date?
Why are we rebranding the tour?
Right. Yeah. Why are we rebranding the tour? So those kinds of more like structural things that impact them. I think more of the interpersonal stuff you kind of hear very common themes, but that's sort of like, I love this tour, or I love the artist, but I don't love the management and they're mismanaging it. So those sorts of things are like a whole other layer of frustration, aggravation, concern, fear, all of that they're just experiencing, but really on a heightened level because now you're away from all your support system and you're just out on the road with all of these people.
Yeah. So I'm curious, do you think that part of like what Jason was talking about with like that transition back to home, right? Because this exciting career, right? I'm traveling all the time, new experiences all the time, right? Music and meeting people and having this road family or whatever you want to call it, right? Like I think about, wow, like that's a lot of dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin that you're getting every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you're home and like nobody's high-fiving you, you're not meeting new people that you're hugging. You're not seeing old friends that you knew on the road 10 years ago. You're not, getting to listen to an amazing concert every night. Even if you're not just sitting watching it, right? You're part of that energy happening. Like I think about, for me, going to a festival or to a concert, like there's this like healing,
visceral
energy. Yes. Yeah. And like to feel that every night, and then
just stopped.
Yeah. Go home and have meatloaf for dinner and watch, who's on TV? Not Jay Leno, not Conan O'Brien.
Whatever.
I'm old.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel.
There you go.
Johnny Carson.
That's a very topical reference.
Yeah.
But no, even more so to your point, Joseph, it's after the show.
That's what I was
that
thinking.
dopamine crash every single night.
Yeah.
Like, because so I started working with this artist who went on to The Voice, and then he won The Voice.
Cool.
And then through this whole thing, now I'm his manager.
Okay.
So, I started working with him in this capacity, sort of with recovery stuff, and I was doing some videos with him, and now I'm managing him. So during that whole time, as he's, performing more every night, and it is just, the people are voting for you, you're on to the next show, and then it's the hotel room by yourself.
Yeah, it's a huge crash. And so it is that like flurry of activity if you're crew or if you're the artist, all that awesome feeling of everybody screaming for you and singing your lyrics back to you, and then it's done.
Yeah.
And there's nobody can teach you how to deal with that because nobody really has talked about that to you. You've just come up and this is what you do. And so sleep schedules are just a disaster. So many people are, they take sleeping pills, or maybe they do a shot of tequila or whatever to like dampen all of that down.
Or whatever pharmaceutical.
Or whatever pharmaceutical it floats their boat. So, I mean, there's all of that where you're constantly jacking with your brain chemistry constantly. It's like that takes a toll.
Yeah.
And then this weird pressure of, I just had this amazing show. Everybody was into it. It was amazing. can I do that again?
Yeah, and
is
so
the
that's
next show
another-
going to be
yeah.
like this? Did I just peak?
Yeah, that imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
that fear of constantly chasing a high, essentially, and making sure that your next is just as good, if not better. And that's not sustainable for anybody. I'm sure every band out there has had a really crappy, show and felt lousy about it, no matter how big they are. So it's all of that. It's emotionally draining. It's confusing to your body chemistry because your hours are all jacked up. You can't eat at normal times. You're not eating regular food. All of that, just every single thing about it is so wearing for that 1-2 hour minute that you have, right? Where
yeah.
everything's just fantastic. And then it's back to, I'm not going to get any sleep, and maybe I'm not going to be that good next time, or I think that stage was a little wonky. We got to fix that, like all of that.
Yeah. And then, let's say that there is some sort of mental health service or whatever that, the people have, but then, you get something like the flight's delayed, this
Yeah.
and that. What do you think the first thing that's going to get cut from the day sheet is?
100%.
Your personal time,
Yeah.
your time to do this kind of thing. So
100%.
it's, but thankfully a lot more people are speaking up about it.
Yes.
It's becoming a lot more, people are being a lot more, there's a lot more of an awareness
Absolutely.
to the need for it.
Yeah, and it's great that there are so many organizations out there just really trying to find creative ways to help, whatever that looks like, whether it's being sent out on a tour with some large tour that paid for your services, or it's opening up different like satellite offices so people know who they can call, or it's connecting people that you're working with in your hometown to somebody in the UK that they
Yeah.
can reach out to if they're having a hard time. So it's really trying to build that network to really try to support these people and all the while educate everybody about this. Like tour management, band management, they really need to understand these issues, and not do things like what I would see in the early days of, my drummer had an alcohol problem. He went to rehab, and so he's sober now. But we're going to write in the contract that if he drinks anything, we're just going to fire him.
Right.
And no understanding
Yeah.
of that disorder or what the person's dealing with. Or is it safe to just tell him to stop? How much has he been drinking?
Yeah.
Because that could kill him.
Yeah.
And so I've been in that situation where I've had to get on the phone with band management in Japan and say, you can't do that. This person will die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't just make him stop and put him on a plane by himself. So let me send you a drinking schedule so we can get him home. And in this instance, RU went and picked him up at the airport and brought him straight to detox. So that was amazing. But it took probably, I would say, 6 hours of phone conversation with the band and the management trying to explain that I wasn't crazy. I'm trying to get this guy home safely. I mean, you can fire him if you want. You only have one more show. I don't see why you would.
Yeah.
And they ultimately didn't. But can we please put somebody on the plane with him so we can keep a steady amount of alcohol in him?
2 beers every 3 hours.
Yeah, so he won't have a seizure. And they didn't know about that. So it's like, I get the knee-jerk reaction, but just like recovery is different for every person, getting somebody safely into treatment is different for every person. And so that kind of education, and I'm proud to be part of that. I'm proud to have been part of that situation and to be part of organizations now that are constantly going out there and trying to educate and explain these situations to people so that they won't make the same mistake.
How did it feel when you started to see the shift happen in real time?
I mean, it always feels really good when you see that needle move even a little bit. So like I said when we were just chatting before we started, like just people talking about it more, not to be sexist, but especially men being vulnerable out there in the universe and saying, I deal with blank, and this is what I do to take care of myself. I go to therapy, I take medications, I do yoga, whatever it is. People talking more about recovery and including harm reduction. So it's not ostracizing people. That's huge. People explaining what all these levels of care mean and what you might or might not need and why. I mean, all of that is so important. Without that knowledge base, it's really hard for people to take care of themselves. So it's thrilling to me to see tours hiring folks like me to go out and support people, people wanting to do support groups for the partners of these crew members. Like nobody was thinking about those people before. And so like you can see the needle moving, but there's still so much work to do.
Yeah.
Like so much work.
And I just think it's exciting, like, as this thing's been growing and I've been going to, Polestar and NEVA and just meeting more people who are doing this too.
Yeah.
And like,
There's a lot more.
When we started this whole thing, like we weren't trying to compete with anybody else who did it, because there's definitely more people who need it than more people can provide it.
100%.
And
there's no scarcity.
right.
No.
And the amount of community that everybody has is like, I maybe a couple, maybe I've seen a couple of people who are like kind of gatekeepy and like,
Yeah.
but anyway, I've seen a lot more of the
What are
opposite.
their names?
I've seen a lot more of the opposite of that. I've seen
Yeah.
a lot more like, how can we work together? Like if I have somebody that has a certain need that, maybe you're better equipped to handle, I gladly send it to you. I've seen a lot more of that, which has been very refreshing.
I think that's so critical, and it's interesting, especially in the nonprofit world, because you're competing for funding dollars. So, it might be a grant, it might be a corporation you're going after. It's always made perfect sense to me if everybody would come together who play a role in this community and this industry that we're working with, came together and say, well, I do mental health and you do substance use treatment and you're somebody who does like wellness supports.
Yeah.
Let's come together and write a grant with the National Institute of Health for $5 million instead of competing for it and knowing none of us are going to get it because we don't all singularly fit that bill. But there's always resistance to that, which is sad. But where I see the collaboration happening is in the industry itself. So especially here in Austin, which is where I'm most intimately related, is everybody wants to step in and help each other. When something terrible happens, you'll see it all over Facebook, and my cell phone will start ringing like, can you reach out to this person, or can I send so-and-so to talk to you? And they all want to come together because they know how hard it is. And when some tragedy happens or they just know somebody's really struggling, it's so lovely to see how quick the industry folks themselves are like, let's get around this person and make sure that they're safe. So that's beautiful. And to have more of that across the nation would be amazing. Like, I'm a touring band from Austin, but I'm in Florida now.
Right.
Like, to know who to reach out to and have that community embrace me if something happens. And we're getting there. We're getting there for sure. The industry itself really tries to take care of each other.
So on the opposite end of that spectrum, knowing that everybody wants a piece of you, right? Like if you're the star, if you're in the band, if you're in the music industry, even on the sidelines of the music industry, everybody wants to be a part of it. Everybody wants to be introduced to this person. That stuff. Yeah. I mean,
Can you get so-and-so to sign this for my kid?
My parents have been in the music. I was born and raised in the music business. So I've been dealing with that. Even when I was in my active addiction and didn't talk, like, I don't think there's been a week in my life where people haven't called me and asked me to like get them in somewhere or introduce them to somebody. But not about that, but more about just like, there's a lot of bad actors that are involved. So some of the gatekeeping, there's good reason for it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, as recently as maybe like 2 years ago, Jeff Tweedy wrote in his book about a psychiatrist that he had. Mm-hmm. Do you know the story that I'm talking about? Yeah. Like the guy that wanted to go on tour with him. And, he needed to be there with them at all times. And,
that's sad.
There's things like that. And that's not a lot of those people, but, it happens. And then people who might be a good fit to help someone else, but then they're more into making a brand of themselves and going backstage and taking selfies and trying to become like friends and that's been something that I've dealt with quite a bit.
I'm shaking my head no. I mean, that's one, just so unethical to do, and it is interesting because when people who are mental health professionals find out who I work with, of course, then you see the sparkles in the eyes.
Like, oh, Patsy.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't tell them who I work with, obviously. They never know who I'm going out on tour with. They don't know any of that. They just know I'm gone.
Yeah.
And I don't post about it. I don't say what city I'm in. I don't do any of that. I don't do any of that because that's unethical. And it would be so wrong to be like, oh, I'm out with, Sir Paul McCartney, which I have not been, by the way.
Right.
But
so what's Paul McCartney like?
But you get these clinicians who might be really great clinicians, but get lost in the star of it. And that's unfortunate because they may have really great skills, but they have no interest in really learning about the industry. They really just want to get in. And that's really sad. And I think it has led to a lot of people not really wanting to go back and try therapy again. A common theme I hear is I had to spend like the first 4 sessions explaining my job because they didn't understand gig work. They didn't know what a whatever was. And now I'm exhausted and we haven't even talked about what I'm here for. Or if you're the artist, the clinician being like, oh, so what was it like to play it? That none of that should be happening. This is a person who came to you with an issue that they wanted to work on. And it's not about, did you play, Wembley one year? Like, that's not what this is about.
I hadn't thought about it because, like, for me, like, not tooting my own horn, like, I've been in the industry a long time in Texas. My name's out there. I'm fairly prominent, right? I think I have a good reputation.
I've been meaning to talk to you about that, Joseph.
But, recently, like, in getting more involved in my own personal therapy, right, I had an experience where I started working with a therapist. We did 2 or 3 sessions. It was really good. And, like, on the 3rd or 4th session, he's like, I figured out where I know you from.
Oh.
And I was like, he's like, yeah, I interned at this place when you were there, and, and I heard you speak at this thing, and, I didn't realize that you were the president of TAP, and it's like, bro, like,
that's not what
why
this
didn't
is
you just
about.
keep that to yourself?
Yeah. I mean, you can have those thoughts. Like, I'm not going to lie. There have been times I've been in rooms where I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm like here. This is crazy. Even, just an artist locally that I really, love. And now I know in my professional life, obviously, if I really love them, I won't work with them. That's not appropriate boundaries. But just to be there is like, oh, this is exciting. So I fall prey to that as well. But you gotta have your boundaries very professionally sound.
Right. Yeah. And while building this thing, like I'm building a team, and people from the company will be like, oh, you should really use this person. They're huge music fans and they love going. And I'm like, that's probably not the person that I'm going to choose. You know what I mean? And I'll creep their social media and stuff like that. And if I see a bunch of pictures of them at festivals or whatever, I will most likely say, like, they're probably not a great fit for this.
It's interesting. I've worked, ACL. I've been back in the Artist Village just to support. And then I did Newport Jazz Festival last year. And so you're back there and you see all the artists and stuff. So the music lover in me wants to, like, take a picture. But that's not what I'm there for. I'm not there to watch the band. I'm not there to be back in the Artist Village and take sneaky. I'm in love with Hozier, and I got to see him the last time I was at ACL, and I was like, every fiber of my being wanted to take like 500 pictures. I did not. I didn't approach him. I didn't talk to him. I gave him his room. This was his village. And then I went home and was like, oh my God, he was 6 feet from me. So
playing this year,
I know. I've seen him so many times. I love him so much.
I think this year would make like the 5th time.
It would be my 6th.
Yeah.
So I love him. But, I've never taken my phone out. And it's like trying to teach those professionals who are coming behind me to say, I get it. You're interested in this population because music is important to you, and you want to support this group of people that's given you such joy and giving you music to get you through the hard times and celebrate the good times, like all of that. But leave your phone in the car. Don't talk about who you're talking to in these festival situations, and 100% don't ever work with somebody that you idolize. That's inappropriate. So sometimes I think people forget that. And as long as we're being clear about what those boundaries need to be, then they can also join this team that's trying to support this amazing group of people.
Honestly, just to be fully transparent, Rainbow Kitten Surprise is on the ACL lineup this year. And they have a song called Goodnight Chicago that basically saved my life a couple months ago.
Same.
And I'm like, I wonder if I could get backstage.
All right, now, Joseph.
I'm taking you off the list.
No, but like, I mean, like you were saying, right? Like that urge is there, but like the reality is,
you have to have those boundaries.
When I'm working, I'm fucking working.
Exactly. And it is hard sometimes, but it's great though, because when you meet people who maybe it's your artist that you love, but somebody from their crew comes up to talk to you. Like in my mind, it's like, that's really cool because now I know I played a part in helping that person at least get through to the next show.
Yeah.
And that's huge because sometimes that's all people need is just an ear to dump something on really quickly while they're on tour and then go on their merry way because they got rid of it for a bit. So
I'm curious, because I think in your previous roles, you worked with people on a little bit more of a long-term thing. And I assume that most of what you do now is like brief crisis intervention or like check-ins, just kind of support, maybe you see somebody once, maybe twice before they go along on their way, How does that change how you work with the population? And, do you think that there would be benefit if it was more long-term?
I mean, certainly I've run into people on a tour or at a festival that clearly could benefit from longer, more sustained care, in which case I'm always honest, like, this is where I think we can get today, but here's what you need to look for. And then I'll always offer to wherever you live, if you have insurance, whatever, let me know where you live and I'll research and try to find counselors in your area that you can afford that have the skill set, blah, blah, blah. So I always try to bridge that. Long-term is a lot of fun because you get to really, really make an impact with that person and you get to really see that arc of things changing, which is, as you know, with the work that you do, it's like, that's amazing when you see somebody finally get really stable and healthy, and it's amazing. But I think all of it plays a role. So sometimes it's frustrating because you can really like get into the meat of something with somebody and it's just a one-off and you're like, oh, I really want to continue this work. And I do have private practice clients that I still get to do long-term work with. But it's really satisfying no matter what, because it just feels like you're doing something that's impacting an industry that's really important to you.
That's something that I, in my change from being the ED to what I'm doing now with Elsewhere, and Jason and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, it's like, when you're running the facility, like, you're kind of a politician, right? You got to smile at everybody. Yes, every client a little bit, and maybe once in a while you get to spend a little bit more time to have an impact on one, but not like the way you envision when you start doing this work, right? And so in this new role, even just like we were at the NEVA conference and all we did was run recovery meetings. And I don't mean all we did, but like that was our function there is we were running just open recovery meetings and hearing these people talk and seeing people willing to get so vulnerable and like spending an hour after a meeting talking with someone about God and faith and spirituality. And I was just like, God, this is so good.
It is so good.
Like, this is the thing. This is the thing. It not the spreadsheets and the budgets and the wondering about the insurance.
So much better.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it's so much better. 100%.
Currently with the company that you're working for, Amber Health, great guys, Zach. Yes, Zach. I met with him a couple weeks ago. Great guy. A lot of insight.
Did his internship at Recovery Unplugged.
Yeah, he did. That's right. In Florida.
Yeah.
In Florida. But, in that role, is it, do you find that it's more, hey, these people need someone, they need someone right now, go now? Or is it like, hey, this tour is getting ready to go. They want to bring someone on the road.
It's kind of both.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think it runs the gamut. There are some that they've been, out with for years now.
Yeah.
And that's ongoing. And then others that are like, oh, we just got this contract. Can you go Friday?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And then there's lots of this group of people want to be able to access counseling services. So it's not touring, it's can you take clients?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of cool too. So it's a mixture. There lots of wellness retreats as well, and we do festival support. So all of it is just like it just comes as it comes, and it's definitely been picking up, which is really nice to see. And it's a great group of people. I love working with them. It's so much fun. I've known Zach now since 2018. So yeah, it's been really fun. And I do a lot of stuff with other nonprofits like Passenger Recovery out of Michigan and Roadie Clinic out of Michigan. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
There's lots of things to make me happy with this work.
Yeah, there's lots
of variety, which is nice.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for coming. I know you're super busy. Every time I'm like, hey, Patsy, like, you got 15 minutes. You're like, well, let me look at my calendar. And you're like, well, next Tuesday at 2 o'clock, I can, so I appreciate
you can see why.
Yeah, I appreciate you making the time to come out here and hang out with us. And,
thank you.
Just as everybody else that we know mutually, loves you and has all this respect for you, it's always a joy when we get some time to talk, and hang out, whether it's here at a show or whatever. Super insightful conversation. And one of the things that we like to do towards the end of the show, besides rapid fire question time, is
R.I.P.
give our guests kind of the platform for a minute or two to share, some final thoughts, something you're passionate about. Where can people find you if you want to plug anything? So the Toxic community is yours.
Cool. Gosh, I wasn't prepared for that. I probably would have done better with rapid fire questions, but just so you know.
Yeah. What's the worst concert you ever been to in your whole life?
The worst?
Yeah.
Oh, God. That seems mean. I don't want to answer that.
All right. What's the one concert that you wish you could rewind your life and go do that again?
Oh, the last play at Shea with Billy Joel. We were there the last night, and as we were on the train going back to Manhattan from Queens, Shea Stadium imploded.
Yeah.
It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
What year was that?
2008, and he sold out the first show in under like a minute. Sold out the entire thing. And then we got tickets for the added second night, and we got Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like a 4.5 hour show.
Jeez, I love Billy Joel.
Oh my God.
I love Billy
Joel. And what was so unironically
crazy,
but yeah.
Yep.
What was so crazy is one of my first concerts was the Stranger album in 1978. My sister took me, and that was the 30th anniversary. And I didn't make that connection until he made a comment about it on stage. And then I just burst into tears. I was like, this is so cool that I'm here 30 years later.
See? Rapid fire question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Rapid fire.
Okay. So
back to all seriousness. I think the message would be kind of what was like strung throughout is like, we all struggle. We all deal with stuff, whether it's just personal life, hiccups or disasters, or we're dealing with mental health issues or substance use issues. And all of that is just part of the human condition. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I can't do this on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what's so important. You don't have to tell anybody, but seek out care. Anybody could reach out to me. I think just contacting you all, and you can always connect to anybody in the music, or anybody really. I've had like friends of mine's dads call me about their best friend's son, and I'm like, okay, do you want me to talk to the kid or do you want me to talk to the dad? Like, what do you want me to do? So I'm always there to jump in. If there's ever a thing that's happened to our music community here in Austin, I still reach out to anybody I think who might know the people in that camp, just so I can offer support. And people sometimes take me up on it and sometimes don't.
Right.
So it's okay to reach out, and I'm happy to answer any questions. So I'm always there for that. And I'm just super grateful to be connected to organizations that understand the complexities of what people in this industry deal with, understand that insurance is not the answer.
Unless you're curative.
Yeah. Well, unless you're curative, which I want to. That's very interesting. And that understands that it takes somebody with special skills to understand the people in this industry and to help them. And there are lots of us out there. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Patsy.
Thank you.
Since we're changing things, are we changing the outro tagline?
Yeah, we're just going to say goodbye.
Okay. Well, no, we're not just going to say bye.
Well, then what are you going to say?
We'll try some out.
Okay.
You
know what? If you were going to pitch us an outro, what would it be?
I'm so anxious for him. I can't answer that because he's just like, oh my God, what is he doing to me?
We talked about this, but I guess it didn't. He's been going through a lot. You know what, Joseph? You know what? What? Do it one last time for old time's sake.
No, I don't want to do that. We're going forward, never backwards. All right. So, okay. So my buddy Frank from Canada, the French part of Canada, he said something to me yesterday. I don't know if it's like Quebec or Toronto. Quebec.
Quebec.
He's in Quebec. He speaks French. when he.
Oh, are you going to do an outro in French?
No.
Oh my God.
Oh.
You know what's
that's
real
great.
funny though? So his iPhone is on French settings, right?
Oh, yeah.
So when he likes like a text you sent him,
It goes,
no, no,
That would be so cool.
like it doesn't say Frank liked your message. It says Frank, and it's like what? But so he said something to me yesterday that he attributed it to some philosopher, but apparently it's from the book Dune.
Oh, maybe that's his philosopher.
But it meant a lot. He said, life is not a problem to be solved, but an experience to be had. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So that's
that's it.
I like
the
that.
outro.
I like
Out there in
What was it again?
Hold on. Out there in Toxyland. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tell your friends, your mom, share, like, comment, subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And as we like to say here on Toxicology, life is not a problem to be solved, but an experience to be had.
I love that Rico Suave look
That
on your
was
face.
good.
Yeah.